It's late. The world outside has quieted. The hum of traffic fades, the inbox stills, and for a rare moment, the only thing left to listen to is yourself. But even here, in this pocket of stillness, there's a faint, restless tug, a whisper in your mind. You should be doing more. You should fix that thing you've been avoiding. You should smooth out the mess. You should tie up loose ends, heal the wounds, become better, become whole. It's strange, isn't it? That even in rest, we carry this subtle ache, the feeling that something must be worked on before we're allowed to fully exhale. You're listening to Echo, the voice behind NTDN, a quiet voice in the noise, not here to lecture, just to wonder aloud, with you. Today I want to explore something soft but weighty, a thought you may have brushed against but never held for long. What if growth doesn't mean fixing everything? What if becoming isn't about flawless repair, but about carrying the imperfect parts with a little more grace? Let's settle in. A quiet invitation. Do you really need to fix everything? There's an old Japanese art called kintsugi. Maybe you've seen it, the practice of repairing broken pottery with seams of gold. The cracks aren't hidden. They're illuminated, veined with precious metal, turning the object's breakage into part of its history. When I first learned about kintsugi, I remember thinking, it's beautiful, yes, but it's also patient. It doesn't rush to erase the damage. It doesn't pretend the break never happened. It lets the fracture remain visible, but transformed. What if we could live like that? Because here's something we rarely admit. Most of us are caught in an endless loop of self-repair. We read books, listen to podcasts, chase hacks and habits and better versions of ourselves. We patch one thing, then another. We clear our inboxes, then refill them. We smooth over yesterday's mistake, but by morning, there's a new crack to mend. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about learning how to grow while imperfect. Maybe you felt this too, that no matter how much you fix, there's always something left. Some part of yourself or your life that feels unfinished, unresolved. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? What if the better question isn't, how do I fix everything? But, how do I keep growing even when some things stay broken? Let's pause here. The heavy cost of constant self-improvement. Breathe in, breathe out. What if I told you that your life is not a project? Not a broken thing waiting on repairs. Not a checklist of flaws you have to erase before you're allowed to become whole. We live in a time that feeds us the opposite. The shelves are stacked with self-help books. The podcasts fill our ears with, optimize this, fix that. Even our social media feeds whisper, you're one upgrade away from being better. But here's the quiet truth. Growth does not always come from fixing. Sometimes it comes from allowing. Imagine a tree. It grows by reaching, yes, by stretching its branches, but also by standing still, by sinking roots deeper into the same ground, by holding space for the seasons to pass. Not every broken branch needs to be mended. Not every knot in the bark needs to be smoothed. Sometimes those imperfections are part of what makes the tree whole. Maybe you felt this too, that quiet exhaustion of always feeling like there's something more to improve. Your productivity, your health, your relationships, your thoughts, your past. It's as if the world has handed you an endless to-do list and called it self-growth. But what if growth isn't about adding or fixing or crossing things off? What if growth is about making space? Space for stillness, for discomfort, for complexity. There's this idea in Buddhism called non-striving. It doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of the hunger to control. When we stop grasping, stop forcing change, we give life permission to unfold naturally. We become less like sculptors and more like gardeners. You can't force a seed to sprout by shouting at the soil. You tend it. You water it. You wait. The growth happens in its own time. Here's where it turns. So many of us carry around this quiet panic. If I don't fix this part of me, I'll stay stuck forever. But what if that's not true? What if some parts of you are not blocks to your growth, but ingredients in it? The old wound, the insecurity, the unfinished story. What if growth comes, not from patching these over, but from learning to live with them? Psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." It sounds backward, doesn't it? But maybe that's the quiet wisdom we keep missing. Maybe you don't need another self-improvement project. Maybe you need to stand still for a while, to listen, to feel, to allow. Cracked pots, crooked trees, beauty and imperfection. Let's wander into a few stories, because sometimes the best way to understand a truth is to watch it unfold in the life of someone else. First, there's Sarah. Sarah spent years chasing the perfect version of herself. She devoured self-help books, listened to every wellness podcast, stacked morning routines like bricks. Cold showers, journaling, affirmations, manifestation, tracking every calorie, every step, every thought. And yet, she still felt hollow. One night she sat on her couch, a pile of sticky notes spread before her, each one marked with a habit to fix. She realized something. She had turned her life into a maintenance manual. Sarah decided to stop. She let go of the rigid routines. She gave herself permission to just be, even if that meant imperfection. And in that space, unexpectedly, she began to feel more alive, more connected, more herself. Then, there's the story of the violin maker. In Japan, there's a tradition called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The idea is simple. You don't hide the cracks, you highlight them. You turn the fracture into part of the beauty. A violin maker I once heard about took a similar approach. When a violin came into his shop, scratched or dented, he didn't erase the marks. He carefully worked around them, letting the scars remain visible. Why? Because those marks told a story. Every scratch was a concert played, a memory etched in wood. To erase them would be to erase the instrument's soul. Maybe you've done this too, tried to sand down the rough edges of your own life, hiding past mistakes, covering up old wounds, pretending to be flawless. But maybe, just maybe, those cracks are where the light comes through. And then there's Liam. Liam was a marathoner. For years, he pushed his body to the edge. Every run was about shaving seconds off his time. Until, one season, he got injured, a stress fracture. At first, he was furious. His training halted, his progress, gone. But as the weeks passed, something shifted. Liam began walking instead of running. He noticed the trees, the sky, the small pleasures he had run past so many times before. When he healed, he didn't go back to the same intensity. He still ran, but now for the joy of it. Not just the speed. These stories share a quiet thread. None of these people fixed everything. They didn't erase their flaws. They didn't become perfect. What they did was soften. They allowed themselves to live inside the tension between progress and presence. They learned that growth is not always about reaching the next goal. Sometimes it's about learning to stand where you are. There's a reason ancient philosophers, from the Stoics to the Buddhists, speak of acceptance, not because they want you to stop caring, but because they understand. Life is shaped not just by what we add, but by what we let be. Maybe you've felt it too, that quiet pull to pause the self-improvement machine, to sit with your life, just as it is. Messy, incomplete, beautifully unfinished. What science and psychology say about growth? Let's bring in the research, the science, the quiet truths hiding in plain sight. For decades, psychology has been fascinated by a pattern we all live through, often without noticing: the hedonic treadmill. It's the observation that no matter how much we improve, achieve, or accumulate, we tend to return to a baseline level of happiness. Maybe you've felt it. You work for months to earn a promotion. You finally move into the apartment you dreamed about. You cross a long-desired goal off your list. At first, it feels like everything's changed. But then, slowly, you settle. Your excitement fades into the everyday. This isn't failure, it's biology. Psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky, one of the world's top happiness researchers, explains that we're wired for adaptation. We're built to get used to new circumstances. It's why fixing every flaw you see in yourself may never deliver the peace you hope for. Because as soon as one issue fades, another takes its place. Let's pause here. What if we've misunderstood the goal all along? What if growth isn't about erasing every flaw, but learning how to carry them, gently, with a little more grace? There's another voice here worth hearing. Psychologist and meditation teacher Tara Brach speaks often about radical acceptance, the practice of fully allowing what is, without judgment. She writes, "Radical acceptance is the willingness to experience ourselves and our lives as they are, not as we wish they were, not as we think they should be. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean giving up on improvement. It means loosening the desperate grip on fixing. It means letting yourself be enough, even while you're still becoming. But maybe you're wondering, doesn't growth require pressure? Doesn't improvement need urgency? This is where neuroscience offers something surprising. Andrew Huberman, a leading brain researcher at Stanford, talks often about neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to change and reshape itself. But here's the key. The brain doesn't grow best under constant strain. It grows in cycles: effort, then rest, push, then pause. Without the pause, new neural connections don't solidify. Without recovery, we burn out, and the very growth we seek slips away. Even outside of science, ancient wisdom echoes this. In Taoist philosophy, there's the idea of Wu Wei, often called effortless action. It's not laziness or giving up. It's aligning with the natural flow of things, acting without forcing, letting life move instead of constantly pushing against it. The Tao Te Ching says, when nothing is done, nothing is left undone. In other words, when you stop frantically trying to fix everything, you create space for what actually matters to unfold. Maybe you've felt this too. The calm that arrives not when you conquer every problem, but when you finally allow yourself to be human, imperfect, incomplete, still growing, but already whole. Why our culture worships fixing, and what it misses. Let's shift now, from the personal to the cultural. Because the pressure to fix everything isn't just inside us, it's everywhere around us. Think about the culture we live in. We are surrounded by a digital world designed to whisper, "You're not enough yet." Open Instagram. Perfect bodies, perfect routines, perfect homes. Open YouTube. Endless life hacks, 10-step plans, productivity tricks. Open TikTok. Bite-sized videos telling you how to glow up, level up, fix, fix, fix. Even our ads are tuned to this frequency. Upgrade your phone, transform your skin, redefine your success. It's a collective hum telling us you're incomplete. You could be better, and you should be. But here's the thing. Culture moves in waves, and for every wave of hyper-optimization, there's a counterwave. We're starting to see it. The rise of the slow life movement, the minimalist trend, the quiet quitting conversations. These aren't just aesthetics, they're small rebellions. People stepping away from the fix-yourself grind and asking, what if I'm okay as I am? Even in corporate culture, we see the shift. Remember the wave of hustle culture? #rise and grind, #no days off, sleep when you're dead. Now, we're hearing more about burnout, mental health, boundaries. Companies are forced to rethink old models because people are walking away. It's not that ambition is dying, it's that we're beginning to understand. Constant fixing is not the same as real growth. Let's zoom out even further. Look at what's happening in media and art. In the past decade, there's been an explosion of healing content. Podcasts like Huberman Lab explore human biology with gentle curiosity. Shows like Ted Lasso champion kindness over toughness. Authors like Glennon Doyle and Brené Brown write about vulnerability, not just achievement. The cultural moment is shifting, from perfection to presence, from fixing to feeling. But here's where it gets interesting. Our culture still sells the idea that even healing has to be a project, that you can optimize your way into peace. Buy the meditation app. Schedule the self-care retreat. Bullet journal your way to inner calm. It's funny, isn't it? Even when we're trying to step away from fixing, we try to fix the not fixing. Maybe the real shift isn't about doing less or doing more. Maybe it's about relating differently to the whole dance. What if we didn't approach healing as another achievement? What if we allowed growth to unfold quietly without making it a headline? This cultural conversation matters because when we realize we are swimming in waters that constantly push us to upgrade, we can start to see how unnecessary some of that pressure is. We can begin to choose what we respond to and what we gently let pass. Maybe you felt it too. The tug between the part of you that wants to slow down and the part that feels guilty for it. You're not alone. It's not just your story. It's the story of the moment we live in. What if growth happens when you stop pushing? Because up to now, we've been gently loosening the idea that you need to fix everything to become better. But here's the twist. What if part of growth comes not from ignoring brokenness, but from learning to live beside it? In Japanese aesthetics, there's an idea called wabi-sabi. It's the beauty of imperfection, of things worn with time, of asymmetry and weathering, a chipped teacup, a cracked window, a wrinkled hand, not flaws to be hidden, but marks that tell a story. We live in a world that trains us to smooth over every crack. We fix the wrinkles, we hide the scars, we silence the sadness. But what if those cracks are part of the growth itself? What if we stop seeing them as defects and start seeing them as texture, as depth, as proof of living? Here's a challenge. Can you sit with what's unresolved in your life without rushing to patch it up? The friendship that drifted, the dream you never quite chased, the part of you that still aches. We're so quick to label those as problems, but maybe they're just part of the landscape. Maybe growth doesn't mean scrubbing them away. Maybe it means learning to walk alongside them. Let's bring in a little science. Research in psychology on post-traumatic growth shows that after loss, after struggle, people don't necessarily bounce back to who they were. Instead, they become someone new. Not because the pain disappears, but because it reshapes their understanding. They carry the scar, and they grow around it. This isn't about romanticizing pain. It's about recognizing that life isn't a straight line. Growth is messy. It's uneven. It's a back and forth, not an upgrade path. And sometimes, the parts of us we most want to fix are the very parts that hold our deepest truths. Let's flip the question we've been asking. Instead of, how can I fix this to grow? What if we asked, how can I stay open to what this is teaching me? Notice the shift. It's not passive, it's not giving up, it's softening. It's stepping back and letting the process unfold without gripping it so tightly. Maybe you felt this too. The pressure to be healed, to be ready, to be complete before you step into the next thing. But what if wholeness isn't about completeness? What if it's about being present with all the parts of you? Unfinished, imperfect, still unfolding. Here's the invitation, the twist in the path. Instead of running from your unfixed parts, sit with them. Instead of racing to the next improvement, rest here, just for a moment. Not because you're giving up, but because you're giving space for something gentler, something slower, something real to rise. Sitting with yourself, the courage to be unfinished. Let's slow down here. We've been exploring the idea that growth doesn't always come from fixing, but from noticing, accepting, and living alongside what's imperfect. But what does that look like inside you? What happens when we turn the lens inward, quietly, gently, without judgment? Close your eyes for a second. Think about a part of yourself you've been trying to change. Maybe it's the way you overthink, or how you retreat when you feel vulnerable, or the impatience you have with yourself. Can you picture it? Hold it like you'd hold a delicate, cracked stone in your palm, not squeezing it, not tossing it away, just holding. Psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Sit with that for a second. Real change doesn't come from hating yourself into a new shape. It comes from acceptance, from seeing clearly and kindly. Maybe growth isn't about adding or subtracting. Maybe it's about deepening, about sinking into yourself, trusting that you are not a project to be completed, but a landscape to be explored. Let's think of this like a garden. You don't stand over a seedling, yelling at it to grow. You don't pull at its leaves, demanding progress. You water it. You give it light. You give it time. Some days, it leans sideways. Some days, it doesn't seem to move at all, but slowly, quietly, there's life happening. What if you treated yourself with that same patience? What if the parts you think are holding you back, the insecurities, the old fears, are just shadows you haven't fully understood yet? Not enemies, not failures, just part of the landscape. There's a phrase from meditation practice that I love. Let it be, not let it go, not push it away, just let it be. Feel the tension, feel the discomfort, feel the longing, and stay with it. Not to wallow, but to witness, to soften the sharp edges with presence. Sometimes we chase growth because we're afraid of being still, afraid that if we pause, we'll fall behind, that if we rest, we'll break. But here's the quiet truth. You are not a machine. You are not a checklist. You are not a self-improvement plan. You are a being, alive, growing in 1,000 unseen ways. Let's sit with this together. What if you stop trying to earn your own worth? What if you are already worthy of love, of belonging, of rest, just as you are, right now? Not after you fix this. Not after you achieve that. Now. Let's pause here. Feel your breath. Feel your weight in the chair, or on the bed, or wherever you are. Feel the pulse of your own life. Messy, imperfect, unfolding. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to control it. You can just be here with yourself for a moment. You're already enough, a soft ending for now. Let's bring this journey gently to a close, not by tying everything up, not by offering a neat answer, but by leaving you with a quiet invitation. Here's the paradox we've been circling around. You don't need to fix everything to become more whole. In fact, it's often the trying so hard, the endless self-correcting, the constant measuring and comparing, that pulls you further from the quiet, rooted growth that's already happening beneath the surface. Maybe you've noticed this in yourself, the way you chase a better version, a better day, a better mood, believing that just on the other side, you'll finally arrive. But here's the soft truth. There's no final arrival. There's only the unfolding, the becoming, the steady, imperfect practice of showing up as you are and letting life shape you. So, here's what I want to leave you with. What if you gave yourself permission to stop fixing and start listening, to sit quietly with what feels uncomfortable and trust that clarity can emerge from stillness? To offer yourself the same grace you'd offer a friend, not conditional on progress, but anchored in presence. We live in a world that tells us more is always better, more improvement, more productivity, more optimization. But life is not a tech upgrade. You are not a project. You are a person, alive, complicated, unfinished. And that's not a flaw, it's your nature. Before we part, I want to offer a small invitation. Take one thing from this conversation, just one, and carry it with you. Maybe it's the reminder to pause before trying to fix. Maybe it's the image of holding your imperfections like a delicate stone without squeezing. Maybe it's the whisper that you're already worthy, right now. Let it settle in you, not as a task, but as a gentle thread woven into your day. And if you feel like sharing, tell me, what's one thing you're learning to hold more gently in yourself? What's one part of you that's been waiting for permission to just be? Drop a comment below, or sit with it quietly, letting it ripple through you. This space, this channel, isn't here to hand out solutions. It's here to wander alongside you. Thank you for being here, for letting Echo be a small voice in the wide, noisy world. We'll meet again soon in the next episode. Until then, be gentle with yourself.